And our first speaker is Taya Reed. Taya has been a Toastmaster since 2018. She's working on Communicate Change project from Visionary Communication. Over the next 5 to 7 minutes, she's going to share 8 reasons why every adoptee should have access to their original birth certificate. Her speech is titled, No More Secrecy, Unsealing Birth Certificates. Please help me welcome Toastmaster Taya Reed.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. Today it is my hope to share with you 5 compelling reasons for why an adoptee should have access to their original birth certificate. First, let me share a bit of the backstory as to even why adoptees had their records sealed. Since I reside in Texas, I will share first some of the information in this state and then carry it over to California, which is the state in which I was originally born. Prior to 1957, an adoptee in Texas could obtain their original birth certificate once they reached the age of 21. It was Senate Bill 167 that closed original birth certificates that sealed those records, replaced them with amended ones, and then only made them available by court order. This bill was originally meant to protect adoptees who might otherwise be discriminated against through laws that targeted illegitimacy. It was meant to protect adoptees from this stigma of being a bastard child, but it was also to protect the newly adopted family so that no one knew an adoption had occurred. There was nothing in the law about protecting the birth mother's identity, but somehow over the years, opponents of reform turned this around and started to say that it should protect the birth mother's anonymity. Well, today, there are 10 states that have open birth certificate records. However, California is still a restricted state, which means that a California-born adoptee, such as myself, must petition the court and show good and compelling cause to open my records. Although courts are required to give what they call great weight to the fact that the petitioning adoptee is now an adult, this great weight has not been defined in the context of opening one's records. So this leads to my first reason for why an adoptee should have access. It is our basic right to have access, and we are the only group denied this. Genealogy has been around since the beginning of humankind. And for many, we have a basic fundamental desire to learn about our roots. How many of us are familiar with the PBS TV show called Finding Your Roots with Henry Louis Gates? Yes. Their episodes have celebrities diving into their ancestry, sometimes uncovering deep secrets and hidden identities. So if such a show exists and we learn from it, why not allow an adoptee to have that access? So this comes to my second reason. It supports our understanding of our health. Before I found my birth mother, every time that I would go to the doctor's office and they would ask me about my medical history, I couldn't respond. I couldn't give them any idea of potential health issues that may be in my family. The denial of access to my original birth certificate denied me knowledge of my DNA, which we know can have potential health consequences. This is my third reason, which is authenticity. It wasn't until I was an adult that I actually understood what an amended birth certificate actually meant, and that I actually had an original one and an original birth name at that. Just to give you a bit more perspective of the gravity of this, in Texas alone, there are 960,000 adoptees who do not have access to their original birth certificate. So my fourth reason is that we do grow up and we do become adults. And so this perspective about protecting the rights of the birth mother or the adoptive parent seems to ignore that we are no longer children. Some have argued that if there was such a horrible secret around the conception or the birth of their child, that would be reason to not provide that access. Adopted people, though, having access to their original birth certificate does not mean that that birth mother has to share the details around the conception and their birth. It is simply a vital statistic document, a genealogical record. So finally, my last reason is secrets result in unnecessary pain and suffering. As a therapist, I have counseled many adoptees and seen their suffering in their trying to search for their biological family. And this pain is easily avoidable if we are to have access. I was fortunate to happen upon my birth mother by way of a documentary that used what is known as an adoption reunion expert. And she charged a pretty penny, by the way, for her services to find her. And I thought, how interesting it is that a professional who has certain credentials has access to the beginning of my story, and I do not. This is a business, but because of my desperate need to know my origin story, I paid that fee. But not every adoptee has the financial means to search. And the funny thing is, although I found my birth mother, it did not give me access to my original birth certificate. I would still need to go through social services and put a petition in to the court that filed for my adoption. And in that, I would still need to show good and compelling cause for the unsealing of my records. And then it is still left to the sole discretion of that judge as to whether they would do that. This is a major roadblock and one that I think that needs to be removed. So let me just close by saying that although finding my birth mother allowed me to come home to self, I believe that having access to my original birth certificate would allow me, as well as other adoptees, to add just another puzzle piece to our emotionally complex story. Thank you.